But for me, with my layman understanding, I would think he should be able to give average cost per kilometer. And we understand that the road is a very big project. They will probably have a different terrains, maybe multiple terrains from Lagos to Calabar, then to Edo State. But we can, aggregate the whole thing and divide it by the cost of the project. And I think they can find the average by that.
If you're spending your own hard-earned money, would you not want to know how much it's going to cost you a kilometer if you're building a road or whatever project you're doing, maybe per hour? You want to know how much a contractor is charging you per hour. You want to know how much the materials is going to cost, right? Who gives a contractor a blank check and let them know once the project is fully mobilized, then we're going to know how much it's going to cost us? That doesn't make any sense at all. If you're spending your own money, you want to know how much it's going to cost you from the start before you invest too much money.
My conclusion is this. They are siphoning a lot of that money for election. They are saving money for election.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Why I Need podcast. Thank you for joining us. And if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button, like, share, and also engage with us in the comment section. So we're talking about the interview that went viral earlier today between Rufai Oseni of Arise News and also the Minister of Works. And this is about the Coastal Highway project. And it looks like the minister couldn't really give a good answer as to how much the project is going to cost per kilometer. And the minister did mention some things about how the cost per kilometer could change, and depending on the area, depending on the location of the pavement. Yeah, but there's a lot of mixed reaction on this online, and some people are giving kudos to Rufai for pressing the neck of the minister for trying to get some information out of her. And I think it's important that our leaders need to be accountable to the people. They shouldn't just feel like they are too powerful and nobody can question them on how they're using the resources of the nation. And it looks like a lot of our leaders don't like to be questioned. They don't like to be held accountable. And it is just a question. If you have the answer, give him the right answer. If you don't have it, let him know you can go back and look into it and get back to him with an answer. But it looks like instead of the minister preparing for the interview and looking for a way to provide good answers to Nigeria, he focused on attacking everything Rufai has said in the past. So I think the minister took it too personal, and I believe it felt like it was too big to answer any questions from Hosseini. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Nigerian politicians and most Nigerians try to run away from accountability, maybe me included. We don't want to give account. We just feel like we are not accountable to anybody. And I think that was what played out. The minister actually came prepared, and right off the bat, he started swinging, attacking Rufai as a personality, and then the things he has said in the past, basically saying that he's misinforming and inciting the public about the project. I think you will probably have experience because you studied engineering, but he's saying that he's a professor of engineering and that he couldn't give the cost per kilometer. But for me, with my layman understanding, I would think he should be able to give average cost per kilometer. And we understand that the road is a very big project. They will probably have a different terrains, maybe multiple terrains from Lagos to Calabar, then to Edo State. But we can, aggregate the whole thing and divide it by the cost of the project. And I think they can find the average by that. But instead, he wasn't ready to give out information. But for me, this is just my opinion. I think he had information. He was just plain dumb. And to even think that he asked to come to the TV station to promote the project and then ended up making mess of himself is even more alarming.
Yes, we've seen this time and time again, especially with the current leaders in power now. They don't want to answer any questions. They feel like they're too big to answer questions. They feel like it's beneath them for Nigerians to know what's going on with the resources. And if you think about it, if you're doing a project in your house, if you're spending your own hard-earned money, would you not want to know how much it's going to cost you per kilometer? If you're building a road or whatever project you're doing, maybe per hour, you want to know how much a contractor is charging you per hour. You want to know how much the materials is going to cost, right? These are simple mathematics that people need to prepare for. If you're doing a project, you want to know that you're going to spend money within your budget. You're not going to go above budget and then you start looking for money. This is like project management 101, right? You want to make sure you have enough resources before you move forward with the project. Then who gives a contractor a blank check and let them know, yeah, once the project is uh, fully mobilized, then we're going to know how much it's going to cost us. That doesn't make any sense at all. If you're spending your own money, you want to know how much it's going to cost you from the start before you invest too much money. But it looks like the way project is done out there is a little different. It's a little different, and it should be concerning to everybody, to every well-meaning Nigerian. We need to start holding our leaders accountable, right? And if the minister isn't able to answer the question, maybe he needs to go back and, find answers, especially when you're borrowing a lot of money, when you're borrowing billions of dollars to develop your country. Yeah, you should be accountable. People should know how the money is being spent. People should know what the project is going to cost per kilometer. And if you're not willing to give him the cost per kilometer, how about the average cost per kilometer? He kept on mentioning you don't know how to ask a question. The question you should have asked is what's the average cost per kilometer? Yeah. But he kept saying that, but he never did give a number. He didn't give any numbers, which is really crazy. If you truly, if you truly believes that they're doing everything by the book, they're doing everything right, yes, then it should be ready to give the accurate number. They should have given the number during the interview. But I guess, like you said, it was just feeling too big and it was playing dumb and things like that. But to really look into the kinds of project they're doing, can they also look into rail transportation that will be faster, that will be quicker? We see China doing high-speed rail, high-speed train. Why can't we have something like that in Nigeria? Why can't they continue to maintain the existing roads? Why can't they spend money on it so people can stop getting in automobile crashes and everything like that?
Yeah, I agree with you. To be very fair to the honorable minister or professor minister, to be very fair to him, this is not exclusive to him. This is from every politician you can think of in Nigeria. They have this weird mentality. They think they're above everybody. They think the people work for them as opposed to the other way around. So in fact, even in my village, we had a politician, he's late now. He was so full of himself because basically his father was a king, so he was a prince. In every political period, the father would gather everybody and basically have the whole village pledge allegiance that they must vote for the son. Basically, he don't really need the villagers. The villagers need him more than, This is typical of Nigerian politicians. They always think that the people work for them and they are not accountable. There is no reason to explain themselves and also like that. For that project, it looks like it's an open check. In fact, I have a question. My question is, if they don't know the average cost per kilometer, how did the bidding process went? Because I would think at least several companies will submit their bids. And in their bids, there will be distance, let's say 700 kilometer or 600 kilometer. Then there should be a way they will break it down to say this is how much on average it will cost us to work on this road. And they will probably look at several bids and say, let's go with that bid. But inside that bid, there should be average cost per kilometer. So why not him just give that information out? My conclusion is this: they are siphoning a lot of that money for election. They are saving money for election. In fact, today it looks like Tinubu is heading to the National Assembly again to seek approval for another 2.2 billion, I 2.4 billion from Chinese bank. All of what they are doing is they're just looking for money, trying to save up money, ramp up money for 2027 election. That is why the man is playing dumb. Otherwise, he knows the answer to the question that Rufai was asking.
And one thing I also want to add is, why are states participating in federal projects? Don't the
Psychophancy.
federal already have money for it?
Psychophancy.
That is crazy.
Yeah,
Now
I
you're
don't
gonna
think
take
in
money from the
particular.
states. Yeah, now they're gonna take money from the states, and the people in the state are already struggling, right? Their state's road are still there, that needs to be fixed, but they're not fixing it. But now they're picking up additional project that they probably didn't budget for, and now they're gonna put the cost on the people of the state. So I wonder how our leaders think. To your point, sycophancy, right? Maybe they're trying to see, hey, I'm standing by the president. I'm gonna take 20 kilometers. I'm gonna take 100 kilometers that's in my state, so that the president can know that I support his vision. But there are other roads, there are other projects that are needing their attention, but they're not putting a lot of attention to those projects. Teachers are still not paid properly. Students still don't have all the resources that they need in schools. But now we're bringing all these crazy ideas just because we want to win elections. We want to stay on the good side of the president. This is crazy. States should not be spending unappropriated money for projects that the federal government already have money for. Why should the states be doing it?
Yeah, and I think in fact, when they go to Abuja, to share their money, the monthly allocation, I think federal government keeps almost, I would think about 35%, 40%, and give the rest of the money to the state. I think local government take about 15% or 20%. I can't remember exactly. But I think states get either up about 38 to 40%. Federal government keeps 40. So federal government already have money. The only way to explain this is sycophancy. All of them want to be in the good book of Mr. President. All of them want to return unopposed. They want to win elections, across the south, sycophancy is the order of the day. The only person that hasn't joined them is the governor of Bayelsa State. And it looks like the way the PDP is moving, he will not have, he will have no choice than to join them. So you can beat them, you join them. Edo State, Delta State, Akwa Ibom State. He's sweeping across that that whole section of the country. In fact, he will almost sweep the southeast. Case not taken. So it's sycophancy. That's the only way to explain it. They want to be in the good book of Mr. President. The wife traveled to the north. They gave her a chieftaincy title. That is the nature of Nigerian politics. If you try to understand Nigeria, you will probably get the kind of migraine that you have. There will not be medication in the pharmacy to treat it. So it's better we just let it go. But the whole point, the whole thing they are doing, taking some road to construct for the federal government, all of that is psychophancy. That's the only way to explain. Let us know what you think about the interview between Rufai Hosseini and Professor Engineer David Umahi. And do you really think he had the answer to the question and he was just playing dumb, or he don't just know? And if you think he don't know, then what do you think is going on with this project? Do you really think they are just using it to ramp up money for the coming election? Let us know in the comment section.